Hey everybody, so today I want to talk about my first camera I ever got, my Lumix FZ-80. I talked about it a bit in my last video. I got because I was going on vacation with my wife. I wanted to take pictures of birds. This is a perfect option for that. I didn't know anything about cameras at the time, so I just grabbed something that had a long telephoto reach on it. I just looked at that 60x, that 60 times zoom on there, and said, that's the camera for me. So I got it, and I had a lot of fun with it, but then I kind of figured out where the limitations of the camera were as well. So it got me into photography, though, so it was a great camera for me in that regard. So what I want to do today is just go over the pros and cons. I made a pros and cons list of the FZ-80. This is for people who maybe are considering the camera, maybe for people who have the camera and are looking to upgrade, and you maybe can't articulate quite why. I figured out some reasons for you. So let's go through this list. First, we'll start out with the positive, the pros of the FZ-80. It's cheap. You can probably find this used for, I don't know, probably $150. Let's check quick. All right, let's take a look at what we have here in eBay results for the FZ-80. Let's sort by lowest price first. Okay, so first one. Okay, broken one for $109. $145 starting bid with a 4 gig memory card. That's kind of a small card even for these relatively small files. It looks a little... It's gotten some use. That's good to see. Man, what the hell did they do to this poor camera? It's like a fungal infection on it or something. Be careful with that one. I don't know that that will exceed this $145 asking price. Here we go, though. $214. Pre-owned. I wish I had shots of the actual camera. Or maybe this is the actual camera. Just in a white space there. Looks clean-ish. Looks pretty clean, yeah. Like new condition. Blah, blah, blah. Camera is in near mint condition. Hey, buy this one if you're on the market. $214 is... I thought they'd be more like $150, but I guess you can get a fungus infected one for $150. If you want a mint one, though, I would pay the extra, $65, $70. Get the mint one. You can even do the 1 year. This is I think you can just smash this into the ground and they'll replace it for you. Or, I don't know how exactly it works, but the square trade here would probably be your best option. Extra $25. Assume that something will break on this. So it's relatively cheap. It has an incredible zoom range. Where else are you going to find 20 millimeters to 1200? I know there's a few other cameras that are similar to it that also do that. Some probably, I think Sony has one. I know the Nikon... was it the P950, I think, is the latest one. I think it even goes longer. Then there's the P1000 or 3000. I think it's 3000 millimeter equivalent. So when I got into full frame cameras, I was looking at lens options. I'm like, well, where's the 1200? Because I was, used to going way out on my FZ-80, and I wanted to, have that same zoom range, and just realized that you can't really do that. I mean, you can get the... the Sony, they have the 200 to 600 that you can get, or the 600, that's $13,000. But if you take the 200 to 600 and put a 2 times teleconverter on there, I guess that would get you to 1200. So you can do it. That would cost you $2,000 for the lens, another $500 or $600 for the teleconverter. You need to have f of 12.6 or something like that. So it's an option, for sure. But the zoom range on this is just incredible. 4K video. you get 4K video. I mean, most cameras have 4K video these days across the board. So you'd get that with about anything. 4K photo. So Lumix has the cool 4K photo where you just put it into 4K photo mode and hold down, and it's taking 30 frames a second, which, it's all fine and good. I mean, that's an incredible frame rate, but it's also 8 megabyte JPEGs. You can't get that in RAW. I think Olympus has Olympus has a system that actually does it in RAW, I think. But the great thing about 4K photo is there's a pre-burst. So it's just taking a 4K video essentially. But then when you hit that button in the pre-burst mode, it takes a whole 30 frames prior to you pushing the shutter. So if you miss something, you have a second to get it, which is an eternity when you're talking about photos. And that's an amazing feature. It's really cool. The higher end Lumix cameras, if you go into their Micro Four Thirds system, I know like the G9, maybe was it the GH5, have 6K, so that outputs 18 megabyte JPEG files. Again, it's still JPEG, but you can work with that. It's either JPEG or you don't get the shot. So that's a really cool system. I don't think my A7R4 has anything like that on it. Not that I've seen. I wish it did. That'd be an awesome type of feature to include. Panasonics in general they have a great menu system. It's pretty intuitive. It's easy to find things. It's quick. Sony could learn something, I think, from Panasonic's system. And I think, I haven't seen the A7S3. I think it has a new updated system that people seem to like, but they're kind of infamous for having a pretty crap menu system on there. So Panasonic, you get an easy menu system. It's fairly featured. So again, you get the 4K video, 4K photo, which is awesome. You also just get like the standards. You get time lapse. The time lapse system in the Panasonic, it's really easy to use. I've used that on a number of occasions. Get like the setting sun, that sort of thing. Easy. Multi-exposure, so you can have one picture and then take another picture over the top of it. I don't know. It's an artsy thing. I haven't used that much, but it's there. It has all the different scenes in it, which I haven't used hardly at all, but I think those are more for JPEGs. Just adds different filters and stuff depending on what you're shooting. The one scene I have used on it has like a artistic night scene, I think it's called. So when I first got it, I'm like, I want to take pictures of the stars. And if you're just in normal or program mode, I think you're limited to about 4 seconds that you can keep the shutter open. But if you go into artistic night mode, you can keep the shutter open for a full minute, which is not bad. But it is limited in that it sets your ISO at 80. So you get a long exposure, and it's, clean for the camera because you're at such the lowest possible ISO on it. But it'd be also nice to boost that ISO to get even more light in within that minute if that's what you're going for. So those are the features that I could think of. In general, you can get good images. I was just watching pictures or YouTube videos today of what's his name? Graham Houghton, I think. Older guy who he might be from the United Kingdom, somewhere over there. Who has just a great series on the FZ-80. Like, he has probably made a lot of good photographers with that camera because he goes real in depth. He knows what he's talking about. Go check him out. He gets banger photos on there. Like, he gets really good photos. So the image quality is there if you have the ability to use it. You gotta fight for those images, I'd say. And my next video is going to be all about going through some images on this camera. Some of the first ones I took, just to show you, like, this is what I took when I first got the camera, and you can make fun of me or whatever, and I'll try to find some good ones, and I'll find some poor examples as well. But if you work for it, you can get some good images out of it. So I'm not putting that in a pro category. It's just what it is, and that's most cameras. I mean, but if you're using a better camera, you're not going to just be fighting for light and that sort of stuff. You can, the sensor is going to work for you with larger sensors and better processing and all that stuff. So now for the cons. So I did put image quality as a con. And like I said, you can get good photos, but it's so much easier to take bad photos with it. I'm sure you can probably take really well composed photos. That's not about the camera. It maybe in some extent if you're, working with the aperture and trying to blow out the background, that sort of thing. But if you have an eye for a scene, I guess it doesn't matter if it's tack sharp and if everything is perfect exposure wise, it could still be a good photo. But yeah, like I said, you got to fight for the good photos. It's really easy to take bad photos with it. It's low light performance. It's just not that great. Oh, here's a con that I forgot to, a pro that I forgot to mention though. It has really good image stabilization. So this will help in the low light. It still sucks in low light. But I can take this camera down to below 1/10 of a second, and with it telephoto zoomed out quite a ways as well, take it down below 1/10 of a second and get sharp images from it, which is pretty amazing. So hand holding a shot at 250 millimeters or 500 or even 1,000, not everyone's going to be in focus, but the stabilization with that small sensor, it's just on some sort of like little gimbal in there or something, just lets you really take it down. And that's for video as well. You can walk around and there's no camera shake. So if you're in good lighting, it's not a bad option if you want to have pretty smooth video and you don't have a GoPro or something like that. But let's get back to the cons. So low light performance, it's going to suck in low light. As soon as you start trying to boost the ISO on this, it's pretty bad. Above 400, you can see it pretty easily. Above 800, almost unusable. Its native range goes up to 3,200. Don't use that. It's not good. Is what it is. It's pretty fragile. So this is my second one, actually. I actually had one before this. I was, I guess, smart at the time. I never buy extended warranties. I think they're just, such a waste of money. But when I first bought the camera, my thought was, well, I'm going to the beach, so it's going to get sand in it. I'm probably going to break it. Sure enough, I dropped it. Like the first day I had it, I dropped it. And it wasn't broken at the time, but then I think I got some sand in it too. And probably about a month later, the camera wouldn't zoom. It would just shut off with an error message saying that the zoom function was messed up or something. So tried to see if I could do anything about it. It didn't seem easily fixable. But I had the warranty service that I bought with it for like $50 extra for 5 years. So I sent it off. And sure enough, it took a while. It's probably a month and a half or so. But they sent me just a brand new camera, a different serial number and everything. And I still have the same 5-year warranty on this one. So they'll replace as many times as I need them to. I don't use this camera that much these days, so I don't know that I would break it again. But if I do, hey, I get another FZ-80 out of it, brand new one. So it's fragile. Buy the warranty with this camera. When the zoom mechanism on here, it just doesn't sound like it's the most sturdy thing. You can hear. There's a lot of motors, a lot of actuators. I don't know what an actuator is, but I bet you there's an actuator in here. Yeah, that worries me. I don't know if it's supposed to sound all like that. Maybe this one is already getting a little messed up. But be careful. Buy the warranty if you have this camera. I usually would never say that about most anything, but for this, it's a good idea. It's fragile. There's no level display, so I really like having in most cameras you have the little green that tells you when you're level. It's not always correct, I think, but gets pretty close at least. Doesn't have it. No mic input. Just kind of realized that tonight when making part of this video where I show the video on this camera and can't hook a mic up to it. It's fine. We'll see how the sound quality is on it, but you don't have that option. So those are the cons. So not too many cons. So for the point, I guess the point being, the takeaway message is that it's a fine camera to start out with. I think a lot of you, if you get into photography, if you're like me and you get the camera and you get really into it, you're going to want something, a step up from it. You're going to want to get into a crop sensor, APS-C or Micro Four Thirds, or better yet, a full frame camera. You're going to want to probably. But if you're just casual, into birding, whatever, you might just find that this is the perfect camera for you. So takeaway, yeah, it's a good camera for what it is. For $300, it's a good buy, and it'll get you wanting to take pictures, which is the most important thing. In the next video, I'm going to print with this camera. Maybe it'll be 2 videos from now. I do want to show some photos from the FZ-80, but maybe I'll break it into 2 different videos. Because I want to show, can this print? I want to see, can this camera make a print? Can it make a small print? Can it make a larger print? Can it make a 13 by 19 print? We'll see. All right, stay tuned.